As the poster boys of Formula One, drivers are encouraged to display utmost sportsmanship and professionalism. However, when things get on the edge, even the best behaved racers tend to lose their cool, and Max Verstappen is no exception. Despite his exceptional talent, the Dutch sensation has had a long list of contentious moments, and in this video, we'll reveal them all to you. From his infamous dive bomb at Sainte Devote corner to the controversial brake check on Lewis Hamilton, these are 7 times where Verstappen did dirty things on the track. 2015 Monaco Grand Prix. After suffering 3 DNFs in the first 5 races of his debut F1 season, Verstappen went into the 2015 Monaco Grand Prix looking to turn the tide. Yet, fate had other plans for the youngster. Starting the race in P9, Verstappen went all out from the get-go, dancing across the tight streets of Monte Carlo with venom and raw pace. However, his aggressive driving style didn't really seem to pay off, and by lap 26, he had slipped to P13. And just when he started to put together what looked like a resurgence, his race came to a dramatic halt. It all started in lap 64 when the young Dutchman came within touching distance of Romain Grosjean. Seeing there was an opportunity for an overtake, Verstappen made his move just as they both approached Sainte Devote. Considering the layout of the Monaco circuit, this was an audacious mover that was more likely to end in a crash than an overtake. And that's exactly what happened. By the time Verstappen arrived at the gap he thought he saw, Grosjean had shut the door. This ultimately led to a collision that sent both drivers into the barriers and out of the race. On top of this DNF, the Dutch racer received a 5-grid penalty, and it's safe to say he didn't agree with the ruling of the stewards. Well, everybody can have their opinion, that's the first thing, Verstappen said. But I looked at my data, I didn't break any later. Ahead of the next race in Canada, Grosjean spoke up about the collision again, saying he was appalled by Verstappen's refusal to apologise. Max is really talented and what he's been doing is quite impressive, but he's made a mistake, Grosjean said. I find it disappointing he hasn't learned from it. Even this morning in the press conference, he was saying, I'm going to drive the same way. 2018 Brazilian Grand Prix. Unlike the mishap at the 2015 Monaco Grand Prix, Verstappen had little or no fault in the collision between himself and Esteban Ocon at the 2018 Brazilian Grand Prix. Having started the race in P5, the Dutchman worked his way quickly up the field, passing Raikkonen, Vettel, Bottas and Hamilton to become the race leader in lap 16. And by lap 44, he looked certain to secure victory. Well, that was until he lapped 14th place Esteban Ocon. While trying to unlap himself, Ocon attempted an audacious overtake on Verstappen. This resulted in a high-speed collision which ended both their races. Verstappen immediately vented his frustration over the radio, dubbing Esteban Ocon as a effing idiot. Deservedly, the French-Swiss racer was handed a 10-second stop-and-go penalty for the incident. However, the drama didn't end there. Still reeling from the crash, Verstappen confronted Ocon after the race, pushing and shoving the Force India driver several times. This earned him a 2-day public service punishment. Explaining the reasoning behind this ruling, the FIA maintained that, while it is sympathetic to Verstappen's passion, the stewards determined that it is the obligation of sportsmen at this level to act appropriately and as role models to other drivers at all levels, and found that Verstappen failed in this respect. Verstappen, however, defended his post-race outburst, saying, "We're passionate about the sport. It would be odd if I shook his hand," adding, "I don't really have a lot to comment on that, except that he was being a P." 2018 Chinese Grand Prix. Now, another F1 driver who's been a victim of Verstappen's dirty deeds on the track is Sebastian Vettel. After an amazing qualifying at the 2018 Chinese Grand Prix, the 4-time world champion was looking to complete a pole-to-flag victory. However, to do this, he needed to outwit the rest of the grid, including Verstappen, who qualified in 5th place. The defining moment in the race came on lap 43 when Verstappen tried to pass Vettel. For a moment, it looked as though the move might stick. However, as they exited the corner, Verstappen's car lost grip and crashed straight into Vettel. Thankfully, both drivers were able to continue the race even after the collision, with Verstappen salvaging a 5th place finish and Vettel limping across the line in 8th. Reflecting on the race, Verstappen owned up to his mistake, stating, "I could see him struggling on the tyres and tried to brake late into the corner. I locked the rears and hit him. That was of course my fault." Sebastian Vettel was also very gracious in his reaction, saying, "I think he realised he was wrong. We were both lucky to continue, but it was not necessary. However, I appreciated the fact that he came to me straight away, because that's the way to solve things like this, face to face." While Verstappen is notorious for playing dirty tricks on drivers of other teams, his teammates are not spared as well. However, before we reveal the former teammate that Verstappen did dirty, don't forget to smash that like button on your screen. Now back to the video. 2018 Azerbaijan Grand Prix. Heading into the 2018 Azerbaijan Grand Prix, Verstappen and Ricciardo lined up 3rd and 6th on the grid, eyeing a strong showing on the race day. However, their aspirations were dashed by a collision. The pivotal moment occurred on lap 47 as Verstappen attempted an audacious move on the inside of Ricciardo. Misjudging his maneuver, the Dutchman ploughed into the rear of Ricciardo's car, sending both Red Bulls careening into the barriers. Race stewards swiftly intervened, penalising Verstappen with a 3-place grid drop, while Ricciardo emerged unscathed in terms of penalties. Expressing his regret, Verstappen said, "I was too ambitious and the move didn't work out. I apologise to Daniel and the team for the lost points." Although disappointed, Ricciardo accepted the crash in good faith, saying, "It's unfortunate, but things happen in racing. I'm focused on bouncing back stronger." In addition to the penalties and public bashing that both drivers received after the clash, team boss Christian Horner made them apologise to every department at the Red Bull factory. 2021 Italian Grand Prix. At the peak of their title fight in 2021, Verstappen and Hamilton went blow to blow at the Italian Grand Prix. The pair had already collided at the British Grand Prix held earlier in the season, but that was a minor incident compared to the wild scenes we saw at Monza. In the heat of the race, Hamilton went into the pit lane only to emerge side by side with Max Verstappen. What followed was an intense wheel-to-wheel battle that lasted through the Rettifilo chicane. However, as they approached the inside of the second apex, Verstappen climbed the high sausage curbs while travelling at over 322 km per hour. The impact of that move sent the Dutchman flying into the air before landing dangerously on Hamilton's Mercedes. Had it not been for the Halo cockpit safety device, experts say Hamilton could have sustained a life-threatening injury. But clearly, Verstappen didn't seem to care at the time. "That's what you get if you don't leave any space, effing hell," Verstappen muttered before exiting his Red Bull. The Dutchman reiterated these thoughts in his post-race interview, saying, "We came out of turn 1 and I had a good exit. Lewis was focusing on getting the toe. He braked quite early, so I went up on the inside and I had the corner, but he kept on squeezing me." Lewis Hamilton, on the other hand, pleaded his innocence. "I gave way and he still didn't leave me any space," the 7-time world champion said. "Regardless of whether I agree with the penalty, I don't think I was in the wrong. I don't think anyone should be surprised." Now, following an investigation into the crash, Verstappen was deemed culpable, resulting in a 3-place grid penalty for the next race. 2021 Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. Despite previous penalties and stern warnings from the stewards, the penultimate race of the 2021 season saw Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton clash once again. The rivalry started in qualifying where Verstappen put in an impressive performance but narrowly lost pole position to Hamilton. This laid down the marker for what would be a feisty race. Following a second consecutive red flag due to a mix-up involving Verstappen, Hamilton and Esteban Ocon, race director Michael Massey found the Red Bull driver at fault. But instead of referring the incident to the stewards, Massey proposed a swift resolution, Verstappen relinquishing P1 to Ocon and restarting from third, while Hamilton started in second. All parties agreed to this resolution and the race resumed only for a few minutes before we witnessed yet another controversy. Upon restart, Hamilton attempted to overtake Verstappen, but the Dutchman managed to retain his position through questionable means. Mercedes promptly protested and Verstappen was told to cede the lead voluntarily. While trying to do this, Verstappen braked suddenly in anticipation that Hamilton would overtake him as planned, but apparently Hamilton wasn't properly informed about the situation. The British driver was left blindsided as he watched Verstappen slam the brakes in front of him, and before he could react, both cars had made slight contact. Fortunately, it didn't stop them from completing the race, as Hamilton claimed victory and Verstappen settled for second place. However, Verstappen couldn't escape the long arms of the law, as he received a 10-second penalty for what the stewards described as erratic braking. This left the Dutchman fuming. "What happened today is unbelievable, and this sport is more about penalties than racing. For me, this is not Formula 1, Verstappen said. Meanwhile, Lewis Hamilton explained that miscommunication and careless driving on Verstappen's part led to the incident. "I didn't get the information. All of a sudden he started backing up and then moving. I was like, is he playing some sort of crazy tactic?" Hamilton told Sky F1. "All of a sudden messages started to come through, but he hit the brakes so hard I nearly went up the back of him. For him, it doesn't matter if we both didn't finish." 2023 Las Vegas Grand Prix. After a 41-year hiatus, Formula One returned to the city of Las Vegas, and it was a memorable occasion both off and on the track. Ahead of the highly anticipated race, a series of glamorous side events celebrated F1's homecoming to the iconic Sin City. From a lavish trackside dinner with celebrity chef Gordon Ramsay to an exclusive rooftop party at the Cromwell Hotel, the atmosphere was ablaze with excitement. However, once these festivities were over, attention shifted quickly to qualifying, where Leclerc claimed pole position. The Ferrari driver was joined on the front row by Max Verstappen, who had won his third consecutive F1 title many weeks earlier in Qatar. But despite this early triumph, Verstappen was keen to get more victories, and he showed this from the very first second of the race as he dived straight through the inside of Leclerc at turn 1. This aggressive move ensured that Verstappen stamped his authority on the lead, but critically, it sent Leclerc off the track, and it certainly didn't go unnoticed by race stewards, who handed out a 5-second penalty to the reigning world champion. Commenting on the incident, Verstappen explained that while his intention wasn't to send Leclerc wide, he doesn't fault the verdict of the stewards. "I didn't mean to push Charles off the track, but I couldn't slow it down and just kept sliding on 4 wheels wide. At the time, I was also full of adrenaline and I was unhappy with the decision, but looking back at it, that was probably the right call." Well, from the events we've seen in this video, it's obvious that Max Verstappen can be a handful sometimes, and this probably explains why some F1 team principals don't seem to like him. But who are these team principals and what are they saying about Verstappen? Click this video to find out more.